When all others ran, a human soldier stood between the Empress and danger. The imperial palace stood as a symbol of order and power in the galaxy, its towers stretching high above the capital planet's surface, gleaming in the light of 1,000 suns. Within its marble halls, the Empress moved with a quiet dignity, her every step a reminder of her authority and responsibility. Her advisors scurried around, whispering reports and issuing commands, but even they seemed uneasy, sensing that the air had shifted. Something was coming, something dangerous, something unexpected. Lieutenant Jack Harris had arrived at the palace only days before. A human soldier in a galaxy where humanity was often underestimated, he had been assigned to the Imperial Guard as part of a special liaison program. Most of the alien officers looked down on him, seeing humans as fragile and expendable. Jack had learned to ignore their whispers and stares. He knew humans were underestimated for a reason, because they were capable of surprises, and those surprises often came when others expected weakness. The first warning came as a distant tremor that rattled the palace walls. A low hum of energy filled the corridors, and the Empress paused mid-step, sensing that something was wrong. Jack, who had been walking just behind her, tightened his grip on the rifle slung across his shoulder. The palace's sensors began flashing red, alarms echoing through every hall. The calm that had filled the morning was gone, replaced by a sharp edge of fear. Advisors shouted instructions, but panic had already begun to spread. Soldiers who had spent decades in the palace were suddenly uncertain, their confidence shaken by the speed and stealth of the approaching threat. Jack observed them silently. Their fear was understandable. He had seen it countless times on Earth during wars and disasters. But he also knew something else. Panic was a tool. If he could stay calm, if he could think clearly, he could create order where others only saw chaos. The first wave of attackers appeared not in the sky, but in the corridors. Advanced alien drones, sleek and silver, skidded along the polished floors, their sensors scanning for life. They moved with deadly precision, bypassing turrets and disabling doors without hesitation. Jack instinctively raised his rifle, taking careful aim. One shot, two shots, drones fell in precise arcs of fire. Each movement was calculated, each decision deliberate. He was fast, but not reckless. The Empress, her eyes wide with both fear and disbelief, watched Jack as he moved. Most of the Imperial Guard had frozen or retreated, leaving the halls eerily empty. Jack positioned himself between the Empress and the advancing drones, his stance steady, unshaken. He did not speak. There was no time for speeches. Actions mattered now. Every move he made was a silent message. Stand behind me, and you will be safe. A drone lunged toward the Empress, its energy blades glowing blue in the dim light. Jack slid forward, dropping low and catching the drone with the butt of his rifle. Sparks flew, and the machine stumbled back. He fired a precise shot at its core, and it collapsed in a heap of smoking metal. The sound echoed through the corridors, a signal of defiance against an enemy that had expected easy victory. More drones appeared, faster and more aggressive. Jack adjusted his position, leading the Empress toward a side hallway that would allow them to move deeper into the palace while avoiding the main attack. The walls of the palace seemed to narrow around them, but Jack's mind worked in perfect clarity. He calculated angles, predicted enemy movements, and used the environment to his advantage. Doors were sealed or triggered to trap pursuers. Lights were used to disorient the drones. Every trick a human soldier had learned in combat could be adapted here, in the heart of an alien empire. The Empress had never seen a human move with such precision. She had read of human courage in reports and stories, but seeing it firsthand was something else entirely. There was a resilience in him, a determination that went beyond training. Jack did not fear death because he understood something the aliens did not. Human courage was not the absence of fear, but the mastery of it. The first group of drones was behind them, but the corridors ahead were not safe. Jack paused, scanning for more threats. A reflection of movement in a polished panel caught his eye. Another wave of attackers, larger this time, carrying weapons that could pierce the palace's defenses. Jack's mind raced. He needed to protect the Empress, but he also needed to buy time. Every second counted. He motioned for the Empress to follow him down a narrow staircase leading to the lower levels. The air became colder as they descended, the hum of energy from the drones above replaced by a tense silence. Jack moved first, checking each corner, listening for even the faintest sound. The Empress, trusting him implicitly, followed without hesitation. She had never relied so completely on anyone before, but she had no choice. In this moment, humanity's unpredictability was her only chance of survival. Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath their feet. A massive drone burst through the stairwell, its size dwarfing anything Jack had encountered so far. It swung a massive arm, intending to strike them both. Jack reacted instantly, diving to shield the Empress with his own body. The impact rattled his bones, but he did not falter. He rolled to the side, bringing his rifle up and firing into the drone's vulnerable points. Sparks erupted and the machine toppled backward, crashing into the walls with a deafening roar. The Empress gasped, her hand clutching Jack's arm. How are you still standing?" she whispered, awe and fear mixed in her voice. Jack glanced at her briefly, a faint nod acknowledging both her question and the trust she had placed in him. "We keep moving," he said simply. There was no time for explanations, no time for fear. Every step forward was survival. They continued down the corridors, each turn revealing new dangers. Drones, traps, and alien soldiers moved with calculated efficiency, yet Jack's human unpredictability gave them an edge. He led them through maintenance tunnels, down service shafts, and across balconies, always staying one step ahead of their pursuers. Each obstacle was a test, each encounter a reminder that human ingenuity could rival even the most advanced technology. At one point, they reached a room filled with control panels and security interfaces. Jack paused, realizing that if he could disable the palace's alarm systems and reroute defenses, they could gain a momentary advantage. The Empress watched as he worked, his fingers moving rapidly across alien interfaces, adapting to technology he had never seen before. Within minutes, doors closed behind them, traps were activated against the pursuing drones, and the immediate threat was temporarily neutralized. For a brief moment, silence fell. The Empress allowed herself a glance at Jack. His uniform was scorched in places, his hands scraped from close encounters, yet his eyes remained sharp, focused, unwavering. He was tired but not defeated. In that moment, she understood why humans had survived countless wars on Earth and why they continued to thrive despite the odds. It was not strength alone that made them formidable. It was resilience, intelligence, and the refusal to surrender to fear. Their brief respite was shattered by a sudden alarm. The main hall of the palace had been breached. The attackers were advancing rapidly, and reinforcements were moving to intercept them. Jack knew that they could not stay in the tunnels. They would be cornered if they did. He needed a plan that relied on human intuition, adaptability, and courage. He led the Empress to a small service elevator, usually reserved for maintenance crews. It was cramped, and the cables groaned as they descended, but it was safer than facing the main corridors. As they moved down, Jack scanned the access panel, improvising a way to override the system using basic principles and sheer ingenuity. The elevator shuddered and lurched, but it carried them to a lower level far beneath the palace's main floors. Emerging into a dimly lit corridor, Jack signaled for the Empress to stay close. The walls were lined with emergency lights, casting long shadows that flickered with movement. From ahead came the sound of alien voices, low and threatening, moving quickly to cut off any escape. Jack's eyes narrowed. Every instinct screamed at him to stay calm, to use the environment, and to fight only when necessary. They moved stealthily, Jack leading the way with careful, measured steps. At each intersection he paused, listening for the faintest hint of pursuit. The Empress followed silently, her trust in him absolute. She realized that the human beside her was not only brave, but also strategic in ways she had never imagined. He did not simply react to danger. He anticipated it, using both intellect and instinct to carve a path through chaos. As they reached the edge of the corridor, Jack could see the faint glow of the outside world through reinforced windows. They were close to an exit that could lead to safety, but between them and freedom stood a final group of drones, their weapons raised and ready. Jack took a deep breath, centering himself. He had faced impossible odds before, and he would do it again. The Empress would reach safety because a human soldier refused to let fear dictate his actions. With a calm precision, he stepped forward, placing himself firmly between the Empress and the advancing threat. Every movement was calculated, every shot deliberate. Sparks flew, metal screeched, and the air filled with the hum of energy weapons. Jack's body moved like a well-oiled machine, yet his mind remained flexible, adapting to every new challenge the attackers presented. In that moment, the Empress saw something she had never truly believed. Humans, she realized, were capable of standing tall when others would run. They could face impossible danger not because they were invincible, but because they refused to surrender to fear. And as Jack Harris held the line, blocking the path of death itself, she understood that humanity's courage was not a myth. It was real. The corridor was a storm of chaos, but Jack remained a calm eye within it. He fought not for glory, not for recognition, but because it was necessary. Every move protected the Empress, every decision increased their chance of survival. In the face of overwhelming danger, one human soldier stood firm, proving that sometimes the difference between life and death was courage, intelligence, and the refusal to run. And as the first part of the attack raged around them, Jack knew one truth above all. Humans might be underestimated, but they would not be ignored. Not here, not ever. The corridor shuddered as the last of the drones collapsed into sparks and smoke, but Jack knew the danger was far from over. The Empress's breathing was steady, though tense, and he could feel the weight of responsibility pressing on him. Every second counted. Outside, the palace's alarm system screamed a warning to the approaching mercenary fleet, signaling the urgency of the attack. Jack motioned for the Empress to follow him into a smaller maintenance hallway. The narrow hall smelled of oil and metal, the faint hum of distant machinery echoing around them. Jack's eyes scanned every corner, every panel, looking for signs of movement. The alien soldiers were precise and relentless. They would not give up easily. Jack crouched low, leading the Empress with deliberate care. "Stay close," he whispered. "Keep your steps quiet." The Empress nodded, her confidence in him growing with every passing moment. They moved silently, Jack checking each intersection before advancing. His mind raced with strategies, all aimed at keeping them alive. He was human, but that did not make him weak. Humans had survived wars on Earth for centuries, facing enemies far more numerous and technologically advanced. He relied on instincts honed in combat training, combined with quick thinking, improvisation, and a refusal to panic. A sudden movement caught his eye. Two alien soldiers rounded the corner ahead, their weapons glowing with energy. Jack pressed himself against the wall, drawing his rifle with precise, fluid movements. He aimed carefully, letting the first soldier step forward before firing. The shot struck the weapon in the alien's hand, causing it to spark and explode. The second soldier turned, surprised, but Jack fired again, aiming for the drone's joints rather than the creature itself. He disabled it efficiently, sparing life when possible but neutralizing the threat. The Empress watched in astonishment. She had read about humans' bravery in battle reports, but seeing it firsthand was something else entirely. Jack moved with a combination of speed, intelligence, and courage. He did not charge blindly. He calculated every action, using the environment to his advantage. When the aliens underestimated him, he used it against them, exploiting every weakness in their strategy. The hallway ended at a junction leading deeper into the palace's maintenance tunnels. Jack paused, listening. He could hear the distant clatter of alien troops, but there was also a faint hum, energy flowing from a nearby control panel. An idea formed. He motioned for the Empress to follow him down a side passage lined with ventilation ducts. They were cramped, uncomfortable, but they offered concealment and a route that the attackers would not expect. Jack led the Empress into the ducts, pulling himself up with ease. The Empress followed, gritting her teeth as she climbed, relying on Jack's guidance. As they moved, he whispered instructions on how to stay silent, how to shift weight to avoid alerting anyone below. Humans had mastered adaptability through necessity, and now, in the heart of an alien empire, Jack's experience proved invaluable. They emerged from the ducts into a service corridor that overlooked one of the palace's inner courtyards. Below them, mercenary forces advanced, scanning for any sign of movement. Jack crouched, analyzing the layout. The courtyard offered no cover for the Empress if they attempted to cross it, but he spotted a maintenance lift that could bring them closer to the upper levels and safety. Jack whispered, "We need to move fast." "Follow my lead." The Empress nodded, her eyes following his every movement. They sprinted toward the lift, ducking behind walls and machinery. Alien sentries paused as if sensing movement, but Jack's timing was perfect. He leaped onto the lift platform, activating it with a flick of his wrist. The lift shuddered upward, carrying them silently to a higher level. As they reached the top, Jack peered out through a small observation window. The courtyard below was swarming with alien troops, but the palace's main entrance remained mostly clear. He realized that if they could reach the central hall, they could regroup with the remaining loyal guards and defend the Empress more effectively. But to do so, they would need to cross a heavily monitored corridor. Jack turned to the Empress. "I can get us through, but you need to trust me completely." She nodded, a quiet determination in her eyes. She had learned already that survival in this moment required faith in human courage and intelligence. Jack adjusted his grip on his rifle and led the way, moving with a stealth and precision that only humans could manage when all else failed. The corridor ahead was filled with sensors and patrol drones. Jack analyzed their movement patterns, noting the brief pauses and blind spots. Timing would be everything. With careful steps and calculated movements, he guided the Empress past the first set of sensors, barely avoiding detection. He used small mirrors to reflect light and confuse the drones, giving them just enough cover to advance. A sudden alarm blared. One of the drones had detected movement. Jack reacted instantly, firing a shot to disable the drone's central mechanism. Sparks flew, and the machine collapsed, but more drones converged on their location. Jack grabbed the Empress, pulling her behind a heavy console, and quickly assessed their next move. He spotted an emergency stairwell leading to the upper floors, a route few intruders would consider. "This way," he whispered. They sprinted, Jack covering the rear as the drones pursued. His human instincts allowed him to anticipate every strike, every movement from the attackers, keeping the Empress safe. He felt the heat of energy weapons pass dangerously close, but he remained calm, relying on skill and quick thinking rather than brute strength alone. As they reached the stairwell, Jack noticed a weak panel in the wall, large enough to climb through. He motioned to the Empress, and they climbed silently, emerging in a hallway that led directly to the palace's private gardens. The open space was risky, but it offered options. Jack's mind worked quickly, calculating the best route to regroup with any remaining palace defenders. The gardens were eerily quiet. Moonlight reflected off fountains and marble statues, casting long shadows. Jack moved cautiously, scanning for threats. The alien mercenaries were methodical, but they were also predictable in their strategy. Humans, he knew, could exploit predictability with creative thinking. He signaled for the Empress to move behind him as he led them across the garden, using hedges and statues for cover. Halfway through, a squad of alien soldiers appeared, blocking the exit. Jack assessed the situation. The Empress was directly behind him, vulnerable. He needed a distraction. Using a small reflective device from his pocket, he caught the moonlight and directed it toward the soldiers' sensors. The sudden flare caused confusion, giving them just enough time to move past undetected. The aliens recovered quickly, but Jack had already led the Empress through another set of hedges and into a narrow corridor. The corridor led to the palace's armory. Jack realized that if they could reach the armory, they could access additional weapons and defensive equipment, giving them a fighting chance against the overwhelming attackers. He opened the door carefully, checking for traps. Inside, shelves of weapons and armor lined the walls. Jack quickly armed himself with a plasma sidearm and handed the Empress a small energy shield. "Stay close, stay low," he instructed. "We're not out of danger yet." Outside, the sounds of battle grew louder. The palace was under siege, and reinforcements had not yet arrived. Jack knew they could not wait. They needed to move toward the main hall and secure a defensive position. He led the Empress through a series of corridors, each more dangerous than the last. Drones and alien soldiers lurked around every corner, but Jack's human ingenuity allowed them to avoid detection and neutralize threats quietly. At one point, they encountered a locked door with a biometric scanner. Jack assessed the panel, realizing it required an alien handprint. He scanned the nearby area and found a discarded glove from a previous guard, using it to trick the system. The door clicked open, and they slipped through just as a patrol passed by. The Empress could not hide her amazement. Humans, she realized, could think in ways that others could not, adapting to situations that seemed impossible. They reached a vantage point overlooking the central hall. The main entrance was still under threat, but a small group of loyal guards had held their ground. Jack motioned for the Empress to stay low. He devised a plan. Using a combination of distraction, strategic positioning, and precise shooting, they could push the attackers back temporarily and buy time for reinforcements to arrive. Jack's strategy relied on his human adaptability. He knew the aliens expected straightforward attacks and conventional tactics. By using unpredictability, improvisation, and quick thinking, he could turn the tables. He positioned himself at the forefront, ready to intercept the first wave of intruders, while the Empress remained behind his protective cover. The battle began with a sudden flurry of energy fire. Jack moved with precision, disabling drones and alien soldiers efficiently. He improvised with the environment, triggering mechanical lifts and sliding panels to block paths and create obstacles. Every move showcased human ingenuity, turning the palace itself into a tool for survival. The Empress watched in awe as Jack maneuvered through the chaos. He was fast, intelligent, and fearless, not because he lacked fear, but because he controlled it. His courage inspired not only the Empress, but also the few remaining guards who had witnessed his skill. Humans, she realized, were not weak or fragile. They were unpredictable, resilient, and capable of achieving the impossible when faced with overwhelming danger. As Part 2 drew to a close, Jack had managed to secure a temporary defensive position near the main hall. The Empress was safe for the moment, but the mercenary fleet was still a looming threat. Jack's mind raced with plans for the next stage of defense. He knew the battle was far from over, but one thing was certain. Human courage, intelligence, and adaptability had changed the tide, even if only slightly. And in the silence between the waves of battle, Jack understood the truth he had always known. Humans might be underestimated by the galaxy, but when all others ran, a human soldier could stand firm and protect what mattered most. The palace's main hall echoed with the distant sounds of battle. Sparks flew from damaged security panels, and smoke filled the corridors, curling in thin, ghostly tendrils. Jack crouched behind a marble column, scanning the area. His eyes were sharp, every movement calculated. The Empress stayed close behind him, her face pale but resolute. She had seen his courage in action, but now, as the fight spread through the palace, she realized that survival would demand more than bravery. It would demand intelligence, adaptability, and the human ability to think in ways no alien could predict. Jack adjusted his weapons, checking the plasma sidearms charge and the rifle's energy core. He had learned long ago that preparation was as important as action. Every detail mattered when the odds were against you. He whispered to the Empress, "We need to move. There's a side passage leading toward the armory. From there, we can secure reinforcements and prepare a proper defense." She nodded, silently trusting him. Every step they had taken so far had proven that human ingenuity could surpass even the most advanced technology. They moved cautiously through a narrow hallway, keeping close to the walls. Each step was deliberate, silent, calculated. The distant hum of drones and alien footsteps echoed through the corridors, a constant reminder that time was short. Jack paused at a corner, peering around it. Several alien soldiers patrolled the area, their movements precise, their weapons ready to fire. Most humans would have frozen in fear. Jack calculated the timing, predicting the pattern of their patrols, and made a plan. He whispered to the Empress, "Stay behind me and follow my lead. Watch my movements and copy them. Timing is everything." The Empress nodded. She had learned to move with him, to anticipate his decisions, to trust in his instincts. Jack counted silently, then darted forward with speed and precision. He used shadows and small alcoves to hide, moving past the aliens unnoticed. When a patrol turned unexpectedly, he pressed a nearby panel, causing a heavy door to slam shut between them. The soldiers turned, confused, buying them crucial seconds to advance. The corridor opened into a larger room, an old administrative chamber that had been abandoned. Jack scanned for exits and spotted a stairwell leading downward. "This way," he instructed. The Empress followed, crouching low and moving quickly. Jack's mind raced with calculations, speed, distance, enemy positions, and the layout of the palace. Every choice could mean life or death. He adjusted their path to avoid a pair of drones that hovered near the stairwell entrance, using the shadows to their advantage. As they descended, the temperature dropped, the air growing colder and more oppressive. Jack's muscles tensed, ready for sudden confrontation. The stairwell ended in a narrow tunnel that led toward the armory. Jack paused to listen. The sound of alien voices drifted from a nearby junction. He motioned for the Empress to stay low and silent. "They're close. Wait for my signal." He moved ahead carefully, using the dim light to blend into the shadows. A group of 3 alien soldiers approached, their weapons glowing with deadly energy. Jack crouched, assessing the best approach. He could fight, but fighting head-on would waste precious time and risk the Empress's safety. Instead, he spotted a maintenance hatch above them. With a precise leap, he dropped onto the soldiers from behind, disabling them swiftly with careful, non-lethal strikes that caused confusion and delay. The Empress followed, staying close to him as they continued down the tunnel. The tunnel widened into a small courtyard beneath the armory entrance. Jack observed the area. Security drones patrolled methodically, scanning for life, while alien soldiers guarded the perimeter. Jack knew that charging forward would be reckless. He needed a plan. Using his knowledge of human tactics and ingenuity, he identified a series of environmental advantages: exposed wiring, reflective surfaces, and machinery that could create noise and distraction. Jack whispered to the Empress, "We'll create a diversion. When the drones and soldiers react, we move quickly to the armory entrance." The Empress nodded, her hands gripping the energy shield tightly. Jack moved silently to the first piece of machinery, activating a small motor that caused a loud clattering. The drone's sensors picked up the noise, turning their focus toward the sound. Alien soldiers advanced to investigate. Seizing the opportunity, Jack sprinted toward the armory door. The Empress followed, moving with him through shadows and cover. A drone detected movement and fired, but Jack used the reflective surfaces to redirect the energy beam, causing it to miss. He reached the armory door, inputting a rapid sequence of commands on the control panel. The door clicked open, revealing rows of weapons, armor, and defensive equipment. Jack quickly armed himself with additional energy weapons and distributed sidearms and shields to the Empress. "We can fight now," he said, "but we need to be smart. The aliens expect straightforward attacks. We'll use their predictability against them." The Empress adjusted her grip on the shield, nodding in silent agreement. She had learned already that human intelligence was as important as courage in battle. Outside the armory, the sounds of conflict grew louder. Jack peered through a small observation window, noting enemy movements. The main hall was still under siege, but loyal palace guards had regrouped, holding the line. Jack calculated the timing and angle of attack. With a combination of distractions, precise strikes, and environmental manipulation, they could disrupt the alien forces and secure a temporary advantage. Jack led the Empress through a side corridor that overlooked the main hall. Using portable cover and shadows, he guided her to a vantage point. Below them, alien soldiers moved with mechanical precision, unaware that humans were about to exploit their predictable tactics. Jack signaled for the Empress to remain hidden as he prepared for the first phase of their plan. He activated a series of small devices, causing sparks and noises that drew the attention of enemy drones. The machines reacted, moving toward the disturbances, while Jack and the Empress positioned themselves for optimal advantage. He aimed carefully, disabling drones and soldiers with non-lethal precision strikes that sowed confusion and fear. Humans, he knew, could use intelligence and ingenuity to overcome even superior technology. The Empress watched in awe. Jack's movements were fluid, precise, and controlled. He was not just fighting, he was orchestrating the battlefield, turning chaos into opportunity. Each action he took demonstrated that human courage was not reckless. It was strategic, calculated, and unstoppable when driven by determination. Despite their progress, the alien forces adapted quickly. A squad of specialized soldiers appeared, armed with weapons designed to penetrate human shields. Jack assessed their approach, recognizing that a direct confrontation would be dangerous. He used his knowledge of the terrain, leading them into a narrow passage where their mobility was limited. With careful timing, he triggered a sliding panel that separated them from the Empress, giving him space to neutralize the threat. The specialized soldiers advanced with precision, but Jack's unpredictability kept them off balance. He dodged, leapt, and fired, using every environmental advantage he could find. Sparks flew as energy beams struck walls and machinery, yet Jack remained calm, focused, and relentless. His human instincts and training allowed him to anticipate movements and exploit weaknesses in the attacker's strategy. Finally, the passage was clear. Jack motioned for the Empress to follow him. They moved quickly toward the main hall, now armed and ready. The loyal palace guards noticed their arrival, rallying to their side. Jack coordinated with them, issuing rapid instructions and positioning the defenders strategically. His human ingenuity turned a desperate situation into an organized defense, bolstering the morale of the remaining soldiers. The alien forces were relentless, advancing with renewed determination. Jack anticipated their approach, using traps, barricades, and strategic cover to slow them down. He moved with precision, always between the Empress and the danger, ensuring her safety while maximizing their defensive advantage. The Empress could see the difference one human made against countless enemies, and she felt a mixture of fear, awe, and respect. As the battle intensified, Jack recognized a pattern in the alien strategy. They relied on speed, precision, and predictability. Humans, he knew, could exploit these traits. He directed the guards to focus fire on choke points, using environmental hazards and improvised traps to disorient and disrupt the attackers. Every move was calculated, designed to buy time and preserve life. The Empress stood behind him, shield raised, witnessing the human ability to adapt and survive under extreme pressure. Jack's presence was a constant reassurance, a living example of courage and intelligence combined. The attackers, despite their technology and numbers, were forced to adjust constantly, their efficiency reduced by the unpredictable tactics of a single human soldier and the strategic placement of loyal guards. Time passed in a blur of movement, noise, and calculated strikes. Jack's focus never wavered. He led counterattacks, repositioned defenders, and neutralized threats with precision. His human adaptability turned the tide of small skirmishes, creating openings for reinforcements to arrive. The alien forces were relentless, but Jack's intelligence and courage kept the Empress safe and maintained the palace's defensive integrity. By the time the battle in the main hall began to stabilize, Jack had transformed a desperate defense into a controlled engagement. The Empress was secure for now, and the remaining alien forces were forced to regroup. She approached him, her eyes filled with gratitude and admiration. "I have never seen such courage or intelligence," she said quietly. Jack gave her a brief nod, acknowledging both her words and the trust she had placed in him. He knew the fight was far from over. The mercenary fleet remained a looming threat, and the palace could be attacked again at any moment. But for now, humans had demonstrated that courage, adaptability, and intelligence could turn the tide against overwhelming odds. Jack's presence had changed the battlefield, proving that even in the heart of danger, humanity could stand tall. And as the Empress watched him coordinate the next stage of the defense, she realized a truth that would shape her decisions forever. When all others ran, a human soldier could not only survive, but also inspire hope, create strategy, and protect what mattered most. Jack Harris had proven that humans were not weak, not fragile, and not to be underestimated. In a galaxy filled with fear, technology, and power, one human soldier had made all the difference. The palace had become a battlefield, a place that once symbolized peace and power now filled with the sounds of conflict. Sparks flew from shattered panels, and alarms blared through the halls. Jack Harris moved with calm determination, every step measured, every decision deliberate. Behind him, the Empress stayed close, relying entirely on his guidance. The humans and loyal guards had managed to hold a small section of the palace, but the alien mercenaries were relentless. Jack knew that this would be the most dangerous part of the fight. He led the Empress to a reinforced corridor that connected the main hall to a secondary exit. The walls were thick, designed to withstand bombardments, but they offered little comfort against the relentless precision of alien attackers. Jack paused, observing enemy movements. Drones hovered in predictable patterns while soldiers advanced methodically, unaware that a human soldier was about to disrupt their plan. Jack spoke quietly, his voice steady. "We will hold this corridor. It's narrow, but that works in our favor. They cannot all come at us at once. Use the shield, stay close, and follow my instructions." The Empress nodded, her grip firm on the small energy shield he had handed her. She had grown in confidence since the attack began, learning to rely on human intelligence and courage. The first wave of attackers arrived almost immediately. Drones swooped down the corridor, their energy weapons glowing dangerously. Jack stepped forward, positioning himself directly in front of the Empress. With precise timing, he fired at the leading drone, hitting its critical points. Sparks flew as the machine fell to the floor, momentarily blocking the path of the others. Jack moved swiftly, using the fallen drone as cover while calculating the next step. The alien soldiers behind the drones advanced cautiously, their weapons scanning for life. Jack analyzed their approach, noticing a pattern in their movements. They were methodical, relying on precision and training rather than intuition. That was the advantage he had. Humans could think unpredictably, adapt instantly, and use their environment in ways no alien could anticipate. Jack crouched, taking cover behind a thick support beam. He glanced at the Empress. "Stay low and ready," he instructed. As the aliens approached, Jack leaped out, firing quickly and efficiently, disabling 2 soldiers before they could reach the corridor's narrow choke point. The remaining soldiers hesitated, confused by his unpredictable movements. He pressed his advantage, moving with precision and agility, forcing the enemies back. The Empress watched in awe as Jack used every tool at his disposal. He activated panels along the walls, causing sections of the corridor to shift, temporarily blocking the attackers and creating obstacles. He moved with a combination of strategy and instinct, never wasting energy or time. Every move showcased the human ability to adapt under pressure, turning fear into opportunity. More drones arrived, faster and more aggressive than before. Jack assessed the situation and noticed a weak support beam above them. Using a controlled blast from his plasma sidearm, he dislodged the beam, sending it crashing down onto the drones. Sparks and smoke filled the corridor, giving him and the Empress a brief moment of reprieve. He quickly led her forward, taking advantage of the confusion to move deeper into the palace. They reached a junction that connected to the palace's internal defenses. Jack motioned for the Empress to pause. He scanned the area, noting that the attackers were regrouping. Reinforcements were not yet present, and the corridor offered little room to maneuver. Jack realized that this would be a stand, one where human courage and ingenuity would be tested to their fullest. He positioned himself at the front of the corridor, the Empress directly behind him. The remaining loyal guards formed a line behind them, taking up positions at strategic points. Jack analyzed every detail: angles, cover, enemy speed, and the layout of the corridor. Every choice mattered. The aliens would soon advance, and the humans had to be ready. The first wave of soldiers moved forward, their weapons raised. Jack acted with calm precision, firing at critical points while using the walls and debris for cover. He coordinated with the loyal guards, directing them to focus on choke points and exploit weaknesses. The aliens were skilled, but they had not anticipated the strategic thinking and creativity that Jack brought to the fight. The corridor became a storm of calculated action. Drones were disabled with precise shots, soldiers were forced into narrow spaces where they could not use their full advantage, and environmental hazards were used to disrupt their formation. Jack moved like a conductor, orchestrating the defense with intelligence and skill. Humans, he knew, could turn even desperation into strength through creativity and courage. Despite their success, the alien forces were relentless. A squad of specialized soldiers appeared, equipped with weapons capable of piercing shields. Jack quickly assessed the situation, noticing a side passage that could be used to flank them. He signaled to the guards and led a small team through the passage, emerging behind the specialized squad. With a combination of surprise attacks and precise fire, they neutralized the immediate threat, buying precious time for the main line of defense. The Empress watched, her admiration growing. She had never witnessed such bravery, such strategic thinking, or such calm under pressure. Jack was not just fighting, he was protecting, anticipating, and inspiring. The humans and loyal guards fought with renewed vigor, their confidence bolstered by the presence of a soldier who refused to yield. Jack noticed that the aliens were adjusting their tactics, moving faster and more aggressively. He realized that the main hall's security systems could be used to their advantage. Directing the Empress and the guards, he activated panels that released smoke and temporary barriers, creating confusion and slowing the enemy's advance. Every move was calculated to maximize safety and effectiveness, demonstrating the human ability to think creatively under pressure. The corridor shook as heavy attacks struck the walls. Jack held his ground, positioning himself between the Empress and the incoming threat. His movements were deliberate, precise, and unyielding. He used the environment to shield her, turning each obstacle into an advantage. The aliens, despite their superior technology, were forced to adapt to the unpredictability of human strategy. Jack saw an opportunity. A group of drones and soldiers had clustered near a narrow passage. Using a reflective panel, he redirected energy beams to create a distraction, forcing the attackers to move in a way that exposed their weaknesses. With swift precision, he disabled the drones and incapacitated the soldiers, clearing a path for the Empress to move forward. The Empress whispered, her voice filled with both fear and admiration. "I have never seen anything like this. Humans are incredible." Jack gave her a brief nod, acknowledging both her words and the trust she had placed in him. There was no time for conversation. Action was all that mattered. The battle continued, each wave of attackers more aggressive than the last. Jack used every advantage, combining speed, strategy, and human intuition to protect the Empress. He moved like a shadow, striking, repositioning, and adapting. The corridor became a testament to human resilience, courage, and ingenuity. At one point, the alien commander appeared, a towering figure armed with advanced weapons. Jack assessed the situation. The commander's technology was superior, but Jack knew that humans could exploit predictable behavior. Using quick movements and environmental manipulation, he forced the commander into a position where his weapons were less effective, creating an opening for a decisive strike. The commander faltered and Jack seized the opportunity. He fired with precise timing, targeting the weak points of the alien armor. Sparks erupted and the commander staggered back. The remaining soldiers hesitated, unsure how to respond. Jack used the moment to lead the Empress and the guards further along the corridor, securing a strategic position near the palace's central defenses. The Empress followed, her confidence growing with each successful maneuver. She had witnessed firsthand the human ability to adapt, survive, and inspire. Jack's courage was not reckless, it was calculated, strategic, and relentless. Every action he took demonstrated that humans could turn even the most desperate situations into opportunities for survival. As the corridor fell temporarily silent, Jack assessed the next move. The alien forces were regrouping, preparing for another assault. He knew that their strategy relied on overwhelming numbers and precision. Humans, however, could counter with unpredictability, speed, and ingenuity. He began planning the next phase of defense, coordinating with the loyal guards and preparing traps, obstacles, and distractions. The Empress stood beside him, watching. She realized that Jack was not just a soldier, he was a symbol of human potential. One human, standing firm, could protect life, inspire courage, and change the course of events. Jack's presence had transformed the defense of the palace, proving that courage and intelligence could outweigh fear and technology. Jack glanced at the Empress. "We hold here. No one gets past this corridor while I am here," he said quietly but firmly. She nodded, understanding the gravity of his words. The humans had proven their worth, and now it was time to prepare for the next wave. The alien forces would not relent, but Jack Harris had already shown that one human soldier, armed with courage, intelligence, and adaptability, could stand between life and death. The corridor, once a simple passage, had become a stage for heroism, a testament to the human spirit. And as the first signs of the next attack appeared, Jack adjusted his stance, ready to face whatever came next. Humans might be underestimated, but when all others ran, a human soldier could stand firm, protect the vulnerable, and change the outcome of any battle. The Empress watched, inspired, knowing that humanity's courage had saved not only her life, but the heart of the empire itself. The palace had fallen into near chaos, but the central corridor held firm. Jack Harris stood at its center, the Empress close behind him, and a small group of loyal guards braced on either side. Outside, the alien mercenary fleet loomed over the capital planet, but inside the palace, it was a battle of wits, courage, and human resilience. Jack's eyes scanned the approaching attackers, noting every movement, every shift in formation. He understood the stakes. If this line fell, the Empress's life would be in immediate danger, and the empire itself could collapse. Jack adjusted his weapons and gave the Empress a quick glance. Stay behind me. Watch my movements. Trust what you've learned. She nodded. Her fear had transformed into resolve, her trust in the human soldier absolute. She had seen what Jack could do, how one human could alter the course of a battle with courage and intelligence. Now she knew she was relying on more than just bravery. She was relying on ingenuity, unpredictability, and human adaptability. The first wave of alien soldiers advanced with precision. Their energy weapons glowed, and their drones buzzed like mechanical hornets. Jack didn't flinch. He analyzed their movement patterns, spotting the slightest hesitation in their advance. Humans had always survived not because they were the strongest, but because they were the smartest, the quickest to adapt, and the most unpredictable. Jack would prove that once more. He fired with exact timing, striking the leading soldiers in weak points while avoiding unnecessary harm. Sparks and flashes lit the corridor as drones fell to calculated shots. The loyal guards followed his lead, moving with confidence and precision, inspired by his presence. Jack coordinated every action, turning chaos into a controlled engagement. He was not reckless, he was strategic. The aliens were trained for brute force, but humans had something they could not anticipate: creativity under pressure. The Empress watched, awestruck. She had never imagined that one human could orchestrate so much with so few resources. Jack's courage was clear, but it was his intelligence that set him apart. Every move he made disrupted the enemy's plan, turned their strength against them, and protected her life at the same time. She realized that humans were not fragile or weak. They were adaptable, clever, and unyielding when faced with danger. The alien forces adjusted, bringing in a specialized squad equipped with advanced technology designed to overwhelm human defenses. Jack noticed their formation and the predictable patterns in their approach. He whispered instructions to the guards, positioning them at strategic points, while he prepared a plan to exploit the squad's weaknesses. Humans thrived in situations that required improvisation, and Jack intended to prove it. Using the environment to his advantage, Jack triggered panels along the corridor that shifted and blocked parts of the enemy advance. Sparks flew as energy weapons struck the barriers. The attackers were momentarily confused, giving Jack a critical opening. He leaped forward, firing precise shots and moving with agility that the aliens could not anticipate. Each move was calculated, forcing them into positions where their technology became less effective. The Empress moved as instructed, staying close behind Jack and using the small energy shield to protect herself. She had learned from his movements, anticipating danger and responding quickly. Humans, Jack demonstrated, could combine courage with intelligence in ways that no other species could. Each action was deliberate, turning fear into opportunity and desperation into advantage. Jack's strategy relied on unpredictability. The specialized squad, confident in their superior technology, did not expect the calculated chaos he created. Using environmental traps, controlled explosions, and precise attacks, he forced them into a narrow corridor where their mobility was limited. The humans' smaller size and adaptability allowed them to outmaneuver the larger, more rigid aliens. Each strike disrupted the enemy, creating openings for the guards to act. Despite their best efforts, the alien forces could not overcome the combination of human ingenuity and courage. Jack's calculated tactics turned every potential disadvantage into an opportunity. He moved like a shadow through the corridor, striking, repositioning, and adapting in real time. The Empress watched, realizing that this was more than skill, it was human nature at its finest. One soldier, armed with determination and intelligence, could change the tide of an entire battle. The corridor shook as more reinforcements arrived from the palace's outer defenses. Jack coordinated with them, positioning each new group strategically to maximize the impact of their firepower. He moved quickly, covering blind spots and neutralizing remaining drones. Every move was precise, ensuring the Empress remained safe while the humans regained control of the area. A sudden alarm echoed through the palace. Jack's sharp eyes caught movement near the main entrance. The alien commander had arrived personally. He was massive, wielding technology that surpassed anything Jack had faced so far. The soldiers with him moved with deadly precision. Jack assessed the situation, realizing that this confrontation would test every skill he had, every lesson learned from his human adaptability. He whispered to the Empress, "Stay behind me. "Watch closely." Her eyes followed his movements as he analyzed the commander's approach. The aliens relied on speed and power, but humans could exploit patterns and predictability. Jack planned to use his environment, his instincts, and his unpredictability to turn the battle in their favor. The commander advanced with heavy energy weapons, firing with deadly accuracy. Jack moved with calculated agility, dodging and using the corridor's architecture for cover. Sparks flew as beams struck walls and ceilings, but Jack remained focused. He observed the commander's movements, noting a slight delay after each attack, a moment humans could exploit. Using the small energy shield and a reflective panel, Jack redirected the commander's own attacks back toward his soldiers, creating confusion and opening gaps. The Empress moved cautiously, inspired by Jack's strategy, covering his flank with careful, defensive strikes. The loyal guards followed Jack's lead, striking with precision at exposed points in the enemy formation. The commander's squad tried to regroup, but Jack's unpredictability kept them off balance. He moved quickly, striking with accuracy and using the environment to block attacks. Every motion demonstrated the human ability to adapt under pressure. The corridor, once a place of vulnerability, had become a stage for human ingenuity and courage. Jack noticed an exposed conduit above the commander. Using a small, precise charge, he triggered it, causing sparks and debris to rain down. The commander staggered, and Jack seized the moment. He leaped forward, disabling the alien with a rapid series of strikes aimed at its weak points. The remaining soldiers hesitated, unsure how to proceed. Jack pressed the advantage, coordinating with guards to neutralize the rest. The corridor fell silent. The immediate threat had been eliminated, and Jack's calm presence inspired confidence in the guards. The Empress approached him, her expression a mixture of relief, admiration, and awe. "I have never seen anyone fight like that," she said softly. Jack nodded, acknowledging both her words and the trust she had placed in him. Outside, the alien fleet had begun to retreat, recognizing that their ground forces could not overcome the combination of human courage, intelligence, and strategic planning. The palace was secure, for now. Jack had transformed a desperate situation into a controlled victory, proving that one human could stand against overwhelming odds and protect what mattered most. Jack turned to the Empress. "The immediate danger is gone. We still need to secure the palace and ensure the fleet doesn't return." She nodded, her trust in him absolute. Humans had demonstrated that courage and intelligence could overcome fear and technology, and Jack's actions had ensured the safety of the Empire's heart. The guards began securing the corridors, clearing out remaining threats and repairing damage. Jack moved through the palace, checking for survivors and reinforcing defenses. The Empress followed, observing how one human's quick thinking had changed the course of events. Every step he took reminded her that humans were not weak, not fragile, and not to be underestimated. As they reached the central hall, the Empress addressed the remaining guards. "This victory is due to one human soldier's courage and intelligence. Humans may be underestimated, but they are capable of incredible bravery and ingenuity. Let this be remembered." Jack remained silent, letting his actions speak for him. He had not fought for recognition, but to protect life and turn the tide of battle. In the days that followed, the Empress formally recognized Jack's heroism. Humans were no longer seen as fragile or expendable. They were capable of standing firm, inspiring courage, and changing the course of galactic events. Jack's presence had left an indelible mark on the Empire, proving that one human, armed with courage and intelligence, could make all the difference. Jack and the Empress walked through the repaired corridors, the palace now quiet after the storm of battle. She turned to him. "You stood when all others ran. Humanity has shown its strength through you." Jack nodded, a quiet smile on his face. "We survive, we adapt, that is what humans do." The galaxy would remember this day. The alien fleet had underestimated humanity, and it had cost them dearly. Jack Harris had shown that courage, intelligence, and adaptability could defy expectation. One human soldier had stood firm, protected the Empress, and inspired a new understanding of what humanity was capable of. As the sun rose over the capital planet, Jack gazed out from the palace balcony. The city below was alive with recovery and rebuilding, but the memory of the battle lingered. He knew that the galaxy was full of danger and challenges, but he also knew that humans, when faced with overwhelming odds, would rise to the occasion. They would stand, adapt, and protect what mattered most. The Empress joined him, her expression serene but thoughtful. "The galaxy has changed," she said, "and humanity's place within it will never be underestimated again." Jack nodded, silently agreeing. He had done what humans always did when faced with impossible odds. He had stood firm, relied on intelligence and courage, and proven that even the smallest species could achieve greatness. The palace was secure, the Empress was safe, and humanity had earned its place among the stars. Jack Harris had shown that even when all others ran, one human could make a difference that echoed across the galaxy. His courage, intelligence, and adaptability had protected life, inspired hope, and altered history itself. And as the first light of dawn touched the palace towers, the Empress looked at Jack with deep respect. "The Empire owes you everything." Jack only smiled quietly. Recognition was not necessary. Humanity had stood, and that was enough. The story of that day would be remembered not as a tale of fear or defeat, but as proof of what humans could achieve when they refused to yield. In the end, one human soldier had stood between danger and life. One human had turned despair into hope, chaos into strategy, and fear into courage. The galaxy would remember that day, and humanity's reputation would never be the same. Jack looked out over the city one last time, feeling the weight of what had been accomplished. The aliens had fled, the Empress was safe, and the palace was secure. Yet he knew that the galaxy would always hold challenges, always present threats. But Jack Harris and humanity itself had proven something essential. No matter the danger, humans could stand, fight, and succeed. And sometimes that was enough to change the course of history.